Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Mat Chat, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. We are in the middle of the postseason, folks, for both high school and college wrestling, and it's a pleasure today to be joined by the Director of Sports, which is a very cool title. Someday when I grow up, I want that title, of the Tulsa Sports Commission, my good friend Joel Koester. Joel, welcome to the show.
Hey, David, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we're ready, man. This is going to be the biggest month of wrestling in Oklahoma State history. And I'm not talking about the university. I'm talking about the entire state, everything we got coming up here in March. So, I've been asked a bunch lately, what do I like better, Christmas or March of 2023? It's definitely March of 2023.
As long as you don't pick it over your wedding day, you're good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's priorities there. So yeah. I'm a big full disclosure guy. So you and I are friends. We met, I think, maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I started getting involved with the Big 12 announcing. Yeah. And I'll be honest, if you were not the kind of person that I enjoyed working with, you wouldn't be on the air right now. So a couple of things that struck me, not only you're a nice person, but super professional, really, really organized. When you say something's going to happen, it happens. And that's a rare thing these days. You and I have talked about that offline, like, hey, finding people like that are great to work with. So I am a little more familiar with the Tulsa experience. And then also I go to junior duels every year. So, but that's a totally different thing in terms of amount of people that are there. It's not even in the same building. But the Big 12s are holding the BOK. Is it pronounced, do we say BOK or do we call it the Box Center? Let's start with that.
Formally, it's the BOK Center. So what BOK stands for is the Bank of Oklahoma. So it is the BOK Center. People call it the Bach. They did a program a few years ago called Rock the Bach with concerts and things like that. But it is formally here in Oklahoma referred to as the BOK Center.
Okay. So the Big 12s are held there. They're sort of curtained off because it's not an 18,000-seat event. It's been streamed on ESPN. Hardell and I and Chris Forbes and Brian Piccolo and Alex Steen and a bunch of that crew have been on the air. And then so we know you guys know how to run a tournament, but this is a different beast. You and I have talked about this when you went through the bidding process. Let's start with, to go back, the NCAA bids these things in quads. So they put a bid out and then they announce 4 years at a time. And I believe about 2 years out before the next, there's 2 years left is when that process starts happening. But tell me if I'm right about that timeline. And certainly, I don't need to know everything unless you want to tell me, but just so people understand how this process works.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. If you're not familiar with the NCAA process, just so you're aware, the bid portal for NCAA championships for 2027 through 2030 will open this July. So to your point, you are correct. They're bid out several years in advance. This particular championship coming up in Tulsa, we started bidding this process in summer of 2019. We did not submit the bid until their due end of February of 2020. And then we didn't find out until October of 2020 when it was announced where all the championships were going. Right. But it's a very intense process. Typically, for wrestling alone, it's about a 3 to 4 month process to gather all the information, have all the right pieces, budgets. It's a very intense process that the NCAA puts destinations through to bring those championships to cities all over the United States. I think the misconception is that these things just come to towns and that's how they work. I can guarantee you that's not the case. We're out there working years in advance, figuring out if these championships are a good fit for our community. Not only from a venue standpoint, which is obviously important to some of these events, but also from, do we have enough hotel rooms? Do we have the hospitality community? Do we have the community support, which again, for all of these Tulsa had, and I think exactly what, the NCAA was looking for. But, let me just say this, David, and I think I've mentioned this on your show before, is that I don't want it to get lost that we're just one of the entities that helps drive this, but these things don't happen unless we have our local support. And again, this was a long process for Tulsa. I've only been in Tulsa for 3.5 years now. I came in during the bid process and, helped us get to the finish line. But this was a long process to get to hosting the NCAA's, let alone the Big 12 championships. I mean, the partnerships we have with OK USA Wrestling and Zach Randall. I mean, he's a phenomenal dude and really has elevated our state from a youth wrestling standpoint through USA Oklahoma Wrestling. And then, we have the Rollers, Shane and Jack man, I don't know if they get any better.
So quick shout out to the Rollers. Both kids pinned in the state finals this weekend. So shout out to them. Shout out to Bixby. Go ahead.
That's all. They just breed wrestlers. That's what that family does. But no, they've been extremely instrumental in making these things happen. I mean, again, any destination will tell you the same thing, is that we work on building a resume before we host any of these large events, and we try to get our feet under us before we, I guess the saying is, walk before you run. And that's exactly what we did. We built a runway into these championships, and starting on the youth side, going from all the way grassroots to regional, state, national youth events, and then eventually working ourselves into the Big 12 wrestling championships. And that was a huge win for Tulsa. And that really set us up resume wise to go after the NCAAs, because again, it is such a prestigious event. It's one of the top 5-6 NCAA championships that any city can host. I mean, we're calling it the Super Bowl for Tulsa because, quite honestly, there's not much bigger events that this city can host. And again, it's been an awesome process, and our partners at Oklahoma State University have just been phenomenal. And again, I can't think of a better host institute to host a championship of this caliber with. And again, everyone involved, it takes a village, right? I mean, I'm one piece of, we've got an LOC that's made up of 40 plus people. And again, we've got all the right pieces in place. But again, long-winded, but again, it is quite the process to get one of these in your city.
No, it should be, I won't say long-winded. It should be detailed, because that's, there's a lot to that. So a couple things that came to mind. First of all, as of now, you guys have been the permanent Big 12 host, which is interesting because, like in the Big 10 and other conferences, it rotates from school to school. That's probably a 15-minute economics conversation, which we won't get into today, but I think is very interesting. I think most people know this about me, but I'm from St. Louis. I live in St. Louis. I've been spending a lot of time in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and Kansas City, but St. Louis is a place that's held the Nationals probably, I would guess, more than anyone else. You would probably know that better than me. I think we do a good job of it. My friend Chris Roseman is, I think, the equivalent of you here. And, so he had talked about, that there's this push by people to have it in one place, but that doesn't really benefit the NCAA because, the NCAA wants basically people to bid as much as possible. And, if you already know you have it, you're not going to bid against yourself. So one of the things that I'm just curious on your opinion about this is, on the next cycle, do you think there will be a city that gets it that will be either asked to or proposed to do it in a football stadium? And the reason I ask that is it was supposed to happen during the COVID year. And then what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. As you mentioned, obviously it was supposed to take place in Minneapolis, inside their giant, is it US Bank Stadium? I think.
Yeah.
I think it's US Bank Stadium, where the Vikings play. I saw some of the layouts for that event. I mean, again, I can't speak for the NCAA, but I think something like that would be advantageous for the sport of wrestling. I think we've started to see some of these duels pop up throughout the year on the collegiate side. Oklahoma State University has done that the last 2 years down in Arlington at the ballpark, and it really creates an awesome fan experience, and really gives the student athletes an experience to see something, that they've never witnessed before. I'll tell you, being in Detroit this last year, I mean, Little Caesars Arena is nothing to sneeze at, because that place was incredible. It's huge. It's probably one of the larger venues they've hosted.
And it's new. It's a pretty new venue too. Yeah.
Brand new venue. So, I mean, my take on it is, it wouldn't surprise me if we see an NCAA wrestling championships in one of these larger football style mega, centers. It makes a lot of sense. I think from a fan experience, it would be, I mean, think about this. You go from finals at nationals of 17-5 in the arena to now you're able to have 25 to 40,000 fans, right? I mean, the number can be outrageous, right? Because some of these, stadiums seat, 60 to 100,000. So, I mean, think about that from a wrestling fan standpoint, and then think about it from a student athlete standpoint of, I mean, being in front of all those people. I mean, it really, all that does is elevate the sport and really, puts it on a pedestal along with, some of these larger events like the BCS games and, Final Fours. I mean, it's really kind of an interesting concept. I'm excited to see what the NCAA does this next cycle, but I'll tell you what, Tulsa's going to throw their hat back in the ring because we want to be part of that rotation every couple of years.
Well, to comment on your last thing first, of course, because no matter how well it does or doesn't go, and obviously I think you're going to do great or you wouldn't be on the air with me, but it only gets easier once you've done it once. Like, okay, we knocked out the park out of these things, and then these are the things we need to tweak. One of the notes I took was about running events, and, we ran the Hall of Fame duels, and you mentioned Oklahoma State as a partner. They weren't officially involved, but it was on their campus. It was a Hall of Fame event. And that event was probably 1/10,000th of the size of what you're doing. And it still was the first time we did it. And we still were taking notes, and we still were compiling spreadsheets and data and getting input. So, and that really matters. I think another thing I'm going to take off on a tangent and come back just so people know you're responsible for all the events that come to Tulsa. So like the Taekwondo championships, everything. So one of the things I wanted to tell you, I'm guessing you've seen it, but if you haven't, there's a big Netflix special about these golfers, the pro golfers and following them around. And the tournament in Tulsa plays a major role in one of the episodes. So I just thought that was very cool for you guys.
Yeah, I actually I binged the show 2 weekends ago. Tulsa's in every episode of. It's called Full Swing on Netflix. Not to give it a plug, but again,
I gave it a plug.
It chronicles a bunch of different players throughout the season, which kind of culminate on the major championships, which Tulsa hosted the PGA Championship this last year. But again, to answer your question, yes, our main objective as the Tulsa Sports Commission is to attract youth, amateur, and professional sporting events from all over the world to come take place here in Tulsa. So again, like I mentioned earlier, these things just don't happen. There's an agency out there that's trying to, again, bring those groups to town. And again, I feel like we're doing a really good job at doing that. Our team is one of the best in the industry. And again, Tulsa's really elevated as a major sports destination in the United States.
For sure. And I think the other thing that people need to understand about the bidding process is the NCAA wrestling tournament is one of the few tournaments for the NCAA that's actually profitable. So, by definition, more people will bid on something that's profitable than something that isn't. I'm going to pick a sport that doesn't exist, so I'm not criticizing. Like if tightrope air juggling was a sport and nobody watches it, like nobody's going to bid on it. So, the level of credibility that like yourself, Roseman, those other people need to bring to the table is super high. For me personally, the football stadium thing, I think it's interesting because people every year hit me up for tickets, stuff like that. If you put it in a 35, 40,000 seat stadium, tickets become a non-issue, right? But I also know when I've ran events and you run in a venue that's too big, then people wait till the last minute. And then I think the other side of it are the sight lines, right? Like, a football field is 120 yards long. People forget about the end zones. Where, that venue that like the Little Caesars Arena, BOK, Enterprise Center, they're basically just big enough to hold 8 mats, which is 42 times 4 is 168. Maybe it's 200 feet. So it's 67 yards instead of 120 yards. It's darn near close to half the length. And then on the sides, it's even further away. So if you do it 8 across, people on the ends can't see the other ones. And if you do it, a 2x4 in the middle, it's just going to be difficult. But again, people do what's best for the dollar. I was working with the Minnesota folks when we were going to do a border brawl up there, and they're like, everyone's just going to be able to watch it on the screens. I'm like, I can only imagine the Wi-Fi speeds that would be going on in there with people trying to log in. So you and I had talked about doing this podcast a couple weeks ago, and some people have put some things out. You and I are friends, but I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, okay? So people are like, Tulsa's not a big town. They've never held this before. So let's address some of this. We've talked about the arena. It's more than capable of holding an event this size. Let's talk about hotels. So most people have their hotels by now. I talked to a friend of mine who got bumped, and she said, well, I booked it 11 months ago. Yeah, the NCAA, they want the whole hotel. That just happens. That's just how the world works. So let's talk about hotels and where people can stay, and then we'll get into things like restaurants, bars, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Tulsa's ready. I'll keep saying it over and over again. We're ready for this championship. The amount of man hours we've put into this, thousands and thousands of man hours, working with our city, working with our hospitality community, working with our restaurant community. I can't stress enough how much time and effort has gone into planning this championship. Again, this is our Super Bowl, and that's not getting lost on anybody in Tulsa. Tulsa currently has a hotel inventory of just under 18,000 rooms in the greater Tulsa County area. Currently, if you haven't booked your room yet, you may be in trouble. We are getting close to capacity. It's very similar to the PGA Championship last year that brought similar crowds in from outside the state. But again, if you're still looking for rooms, feel free to reach out to our either to the NCAA, go on to hotel booking links to see what inventory is left. I was just talking to someone this morning. Our downtown, so we have 3,000 rooms within walking distance of the BOK Center. Those rooms have been basically sold out since almost March of this last year. And then we've been really doing a lot of overflow. But I will tell you, one difference about our city opposed to other cities is that you're not driving 45 minutes to an hour to, stay outside of our city center. The longest you're ever going to drive is within a 20-mile radius. And here in Tulsa, it's not like St. Louis, it's not like Chicago, it's not like these other cities where you're sitting in traffic for 40 minutes. It's a really quick jaunt to downtown. Most things are between 10 and 15 minutes at the most. We just don't have a lot of that traffic that these larger cities have. So, when we were, placing folks at some of our casino properties that are just outside the downtown, a lot of our full service properties. And what I mean by full service, they have restaurants on site, an abundance of rooms, pools, whatnot. A lot of those have transportation. And again, if you're checking in, we're going to do our best to have information ahead of time. We keep referring. If you haven't downloaded the championship app yet, please do. Also, and again, that's through the NCAA. If you go to the NCAA site for the championship, there's a lot of information up there. We're going to continue to update folks as we go. But from a hotel standpoint, again, I highly recommend if you need any additional assistance, please reach out. More than happy to help try to place. We've been surveying our hotels on a weekly basis just to find out where they're at capacity-wise, so we have an idea of what's left in and around the downtown.
Yeah, and I know you're organized. I think one thing that people have to understand is this. Like, I'll use St. Louis as an example because I live here and it's a lot easier. Like, St. Louis Union Station Hotel, like my friend actually is the manager there. But like, if they tell him this is the hotel for the teams, he's not even allowed to sell hotel rooms. So maybe the same thing for like the Hyatt or the Hampton Inn, which is right next to it there, the Aloft, those kind of things. So people need to understand that this is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, great point. And again, there's 3 host hotels, 2 team hotels, and then a staff hotel. In our downtown that, again, the NCAA does have control of the block at those hotels. But again, it's for student athletes. It's for coaches. It's for ADs. And then, obviously we've got the NCAA staff in town, ESPN, the broadcast team, and some additional folks to help work the event as well. So again, 3 of our downtown hotels are, controlled. So if you're trying to get into those particular hotels, unfortunately, right now, I can tell you there's no availability left. But again, that doesn't mean we don't have availability. We do, just again, not really much left in our downtown. If anything, a lot of it's just on the outskirts. But again, we have a lot of opportunity.
And to put it in perspective, so Kansas City, I believe, is a bigger city than Tulsa. I might be wrong, but I think it is, or about the same size. So I went on a couple websites to look for rooms for Kansas City for next year. Everything is blocked, is sold out, because either people have reserved them or the NCAA, they're being told, look, don't sell rooms yet at these low rates because we know we can get higher rates later. So that's not to be fair, like that's not a Joel Koester problem or, good or bad. That's not a Chris Roseman good or bad. That's a supply and demand NCAA good or bad. So, all right. So this has always been my biggest complaint. What I'm going to say next. And I talked to Roseman about it and didn't get a lot of cooperation in the St. Louis area. The schedule for the NCAA is the same every time. The only difference is the time zone. Okay, so like Thursday starts at 11 a.m. It started at noon in Detroit. It goes about 4.5 hours. Then there's about a 2.5-hour break, and it restarts. I do not understand for the life of me why these bars and restaurants are not gigantically overstaffed at that time. And frankly, why they don't just have like a buffet. Like if you own an Italian restaurant, like a red sauce, a white sauce, a salad, if you own a bar, chicken sandwich, burger, fries or chips, beer, soda, because people just want to get their food. Now they'll hang people. Most wrestling people are super nice. Like if I'm done eating, somebody else can, stand at my table. I don't need to stand at a table. What has Tulsa done? A, is Tulsa aware that that's a situation? And B, I'm sure you have, or else it's too late. What are you guys doing about it?
Yeah, no, this is all good stuff. So, it is funny because obviously there's been a lot of little chatter out there from time to time, especially over the last couple months. And again, when we were going through this process, we reached out to all the previous host cities. And one of the big things that we did, wasn't only just reaching out to the host. We reached out to the community leaders and talked to the restaurant scene. We talked to all these, but really too, a lot of people don't realize every championship, there's people on site that are creating fan sentiment that is shared with the next city. So we know what the pain points are from a transportation, where there are not enough Ubers, what were the hotels like as far as prices go, what were the restaurants, blah, blah, blah. And so we've kind of come up with a plan because, again, the biggest thing, we hear you, and not only you, Dave, but we hear the fans that, because, again, this has historically sold communities out of beer, liquor, food.
Well, no, I told you that. Should we tell that story? Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we heard the fans, and again, a lot of times with these NCAA championships, a lot of the focus is put on the student athlete, as it should be, because this is their championship. One of the things that we wanted to do is not only elevate the student athlete experience here in Tulsa, but also elevate the fan experience, because I think that's what we've heard from city to city over the last few years is that, and again, listen, the COVID era really put a damper on things. And, it was hard, especially for this championship, because these, hey, listen, everyone that is a diehard wrestling fan likes to have a good time. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, again, during the pandemic, it's been a challenging couple years, not only for NCAAs, but even for Big 12 and other events that are taking place. But we've really taken that to heart. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you come to Tulsa as a wrestling fan for NCAAs and you don't have a good time, that's on you, because what we have set up for everyone and for the fans is going to blow your mind. And again, I can't get into detail. Finally, I know a lot of people have been asking for weeks.
You can get into detail?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I planned on telling you all about it. Yeah,
let's go. Okay, let's go.
We're ready to rock and roll. I think, from either you're driving in or flying into our airport, you're going to know the championships are here. I think a lot of times they go to these larger cities and it's just another thing, right? Here, this is our thing. Oklahoma is a wrestling state. Everybody is going to lose their mind the next couple of weeks, because this is our Christmas. So we're super excited. But again, the fan activation for us is a huge thing. And again, I can't stress this enough. Download the app. Go to the website. We're going to be listing everything I'm about to talk about is going to be on these platforms. And again, we're going to try to keep you informed as much as possible of what's going on. But I will tell you, as soon as the biggest thing is, everyone's pouring out of the BOK Center or whatever venue they've been in the past, right? And then it's like, okay, now what? Mm-hmm. Well, the cool thing is we're going to make it so you don't have to really go that far if you don't want to. But one great thing before I get into all of that is that downtown Tulsa over the last 7 years, if you haven't been here in a while, has exploded. I mean, we have, again, in the last 7 years, 90 new restaurants and bars in our downtown and throughout our different districts. We have the Arts District. We have the Blue Dome District. We've got our East Village district. We have Cherry Street. I mean, we have bars and restaurants for days. So we highly recommend, definitely check out our website for that stuff too as you're visiting Tulsa. It's just www.visittulsa.com. You can find all that information. And as it
relates, what is the app? What is the name of the app? Sorry to interrupt you.
It's just through the NCAA. So if you go to the actual site for the championships on the NCAA, you'll see links at the bottom of the page and throughout the page to download the NCAA app. And again, all of that information is on there. But getting back to the fan experience outside the BOK Center. So as soon as you come out, or actually coming to the BOK Center, we're going to throw a huge street festival. We're going to have live entertainment. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have beer gardens. So you're going to be able to, party right outside the arena. We're going to have screens for viewing. Not only the event happening inside, so if you don't get a ticket or you're not able to see it, we're going to be viewing there. You're going to be able to watch March Madness and NCAA basketball, which is going to be going out at the same time. And then literally right across the street from our arena is our 300,000 square foot convention center. And inside that convention center is going to be the official NCAA Fan Fest, which is going to have a lot of cool activations, food and beverage options in there as well. You'll get to a couple demos on live mat going on the whole time. And then also, in addition to that, in between sessions, Oklahoma State University is throwing a huge tailgate party right next door inside the convention center as well. And again, they're going to have food, drink, games, live auctions. You can get merch in there as well. It's going to be a really cool festival atmosphere. So, rain or shine, which hopefully shine, you won't be able to, won't have to go far to find something to eat and drink. But beyond that, a lot of our restaurant scene, and we're working with our downtown association on doing a couple pop-ups. So you'll see restaurants right now that maybe aren't open, that are going to be opened as far as having extra bars. We're going to have food trucks. Again, lots of beverages flowing throughout. Again, we fall every year. Again, this takes place over St. Patrick's Day. So Friday is going to be St. Patrick's Day here, which if you haven't been in Tulsa for St. Patrick's Day, it's another awesome activation. Multiple streets will be closed down in some of our districts. They'll have large tents out there to get beer, probably green beer. And again, it's going to be a really cool atmosphere. Going above and beyond, we're doing a really cool activation with the HBCU, which is the Historical Black College Universities. We're hosting a college baseball showcase this Saturday, so Championship Saturday here in Tulsa. So when you wrap up in between sessions, you can get tickets and go over and watch some college baseball, grab a beer, watch some NCAA March Madness as well. And it's going to be a really fun activation, again, if you're looking for something to do in between sessions. But
is that again near Elgin Park?
Right next to Elgin Park. So it's right, our baseball stadium sits right off of our Greenwood district. And it's right in the heart of our downtown. So from the BOK Center, you're looking at about a 10, 15-minute walk at best.
And Greenwood district is associated with Black Wall Street and what
that's correct.
Here. Yeah, it's just people know that. So are the bars aware that they will run out of beer? Like, has it been like, I don't drink beers. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm just like,
so I think some of the noise that's been happening out there that's part of why the people are saying, well, Tulsa's not ready. I will keep saying it over and over again. We are ready. Our bars are ready. Our restaurants are ready. One thing I will say, be patient. Listen, doesn't matter what city you go to, whether it's Las Vegas, Tulsa, St. Louis, our restaurants, again, have been prepping for this for months. And they understand the crowds. We've told them to have hopefully a grab and go option for folks that, to your point, David, just want to come in and grab a beer and get out of there. They've got plans for people that want to stay and grab a beer and sit at the bar. Everyone is ready. They're ordering a gajillion more pallets of beer than they're used to. Again, because it's St. Patrick's Day, we're going to have that additional beer anyways.
But this is a whole separate,
Our liquor distributors are all aware that they're going to be on call in case anybody needs additional support. Again, listen, there's really no stone unturned as far as letting our hospitality community know what's coming to Tulsa. And I can tell you, we just had our last couple meetings this past week with our restaurant community. They're excited. Tulsa is home per capita to more breweries than anywhere else for our size city. So again, if you like craft beer, all those places are going to be ready. They're going to have TVs, viewing parties.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. Again, our entire town is going to be transformed to wrestling capital of the United States. So
I think it's just important that I will say this. I'm not the most patient person. Okay. And where I'm impatient is when people are told ahead of time, this is going to be a problem, and they don't do anything about it. And then they go, well, we didn't know this was a problem. So I get within reason of 1,000 people walk into a restaurant, you can't serve 1,000 people at once. Totally get that. But I'll give you an example. Like here in St. Louis, I think it was after the Saturday morning session, I met with the former coach of Mizzou and his son. They're both friends of mine. And we're just trying to walk over to the Union Station area, and everything there is shut down, basically. Like there's an hour and a half wait list. I'm like, can we just like grab a sandwich or something? Like, no. Like, I think that's the frustrating part. Like, we don't mind standing. We don't mind, like if you're hungry and you're trying not to pay $12 for a hot dog inside of the arena, that kind of thing. Or you're not trying to walk away during the wrestling. Or if you're like me, you're doing interviews the whole time, so you can't walk and do that. So, it's a different situation. So I've talked to you. So, I mean, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. You're my friend. Sure. I know you guys are ready, but I think it's something that I don't think people can comprehend it. Like my non-wrestling friends are like, well, if people are drinking that much beer, there must be a ton of fights, especially among wrestlers. I'm like, it's almost the opposite. Like all these guys have wrestled and fought, and most of them are still doing it on a semi-regular basis as a part of their lives. And a lot of times nationals is frankly just an excuse for friends to get together once a year.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
They don't even go to every session. But that's your right? Like if you buy a ticket to something, like if you're the Dodgers, you want to show up at the third inning, you can do that. That's your right. You bought the ticket. So I think that the misconception of wrestling nationals is that, or maybe misunderstood, is what a friendly environment is. You run into 1,000 people you haven't seen. Like I was at the Oklahoma State tournament this last week, and I probably ran into 100 people. And, Forbes is giving me trouble. Like, more people here than me. I'm like, nobody knows more people in Oklahoma than you and Hardell. Probably not in the top 100, but it is nice to run into people. And it's like, man, I saw this person. Like my mom and dad come to nationals every year, and you've been great helping me with their situation and accommodations and stuff. And for them, there's so many people that love my parents, and just to see them 2 minutes, take a picture, give them a hug, that kind of thing. So it's important that people understand, like, hey, somebody might sit in the bar a little longer. They're not going to start a fight. They just like be able to have a beer and a sandwich, that kind of thing. So go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And listen, we want this to be, as obviously the demographic for this event's a little bit of an older crowd, but listen, we do want this to be a family-friendly event as well. Tulsa's home to a lot of awesome attractions. We have a world-class zoo, aquarium. We've got some of the best parks in America here that don't cost any money to go to. Our Botanic Gardens, all of that stuff. But again, I will reiterate, because if I didn't say it correctly, I'll say it again, is that we're ready. But I do want people to understand that, again, our wrestlers are going to do their best. They understand what's coming. They truly do. Trust me. We've had a lot of meetings with them. We've stressed about how many people are going to be spilling out of the arena in between each of the sessions, so they're aware of it. The activations that are taking place outside of the arena and then across the street at our convention center, again, those I highly recommend taking advantage of. They're going to be awesome experiences between the live music, the beer garden, the different types of food you're going to be able to get at all three areas within, again, a short jaunt. So, obviously if you've been to Tulsa, Arena Pub and Grill across the street, they're expanding for the week as well. So again,
I was there
going to be packed.
Yeah.
So again, just another good location. But again, we have several others throughout downtown. One cool thing that I love about this event already, we've got a lot of alumni groups over the last year and a half that have been booking locations throughout our downtown and kind of taking them over as their hub in between sessions. So I think you're going to see a lot of different flags flying in our downtown, but all great stuff. And listen, we're really excited to welcome people. And I'll tell you what, we're really kicking off this week with Big 12 Wrestling Championships. I mean, we're going to do stuff and activations that we've never done before at Big 12, because, again, we're really changing the format. We hear what the fans are saying the last few years. We understand some of the frustrations. And, again, we are addressing those and really going all in to create an awesome experience, not only for the student athletes, but for the fans as well as they come to Tulsa.
Well, it was weird the year Nationals were in St. Louis. That was not the COVID canceled year, but the following COVID year. You know, everybody's sitting 6 feet apart. I felt really bad for Roseman and that crew because without getting into the specific, you bid a number and then your job is to outkick that number. Essentially, is that a fair sentence? You know,
how so?
Like, in other words, like you pay X amount of dollars for the right to run the tournament, and then you have to raise more money than that, or else it's not profitable for the city. Is that accurate or no?
I would say, again, the partnership that's set up between the NCAA and the host destination is, again, our main objective is not profit or loss. Our objective is, again, providing an overall experience for the fans and then for the student athletes first and foremost.
So, but to harp on that, or to touch on that, the experience was really weird, right? Like you've been at Nationals, right? Like you can't hear yourself think. And in there, you could hear somebody's mom yelling from 50 rows up, because it was, like tumbleweed going through. So
yeah, that's a tough situation. I think, during the COVID years, and again, we went through with Big 12, although obviously not to that scale. It definitely was a challenge for anybody. Listen, you can only do what you could do during those times. And I think obviously, I watched closely that year with what, Chris was able to do, and he did a phenomenal job. I mean, again, those are just tough situations to be in. And again, I think, to be honest, the takeaway from those years, the fact that we got to have wrestling championships and got to have Big 12 championships is more of a testament to the conference of the NCAA. Because listen, they easily could have just said, because it doesn't get more full contact than wrestling, they easily could have just canceled the events, which they did for some of these smaller championships. And so again, I commend, destinations that continued to host events like that during the pandemic, and obviously the conferences and the NCAA for, allowing them to happen, because again, without it, I think you lose a lot of momentum, and it really only hurts the kids, right? I mean,
no, it does. Yeah.
So,
and when it shut down, literally Hardell and I spoke, like we did the Big 12s. 2 days later, the world shut down. Right. And it was, it was historic for us in like a weird way, like not a great way. So, I think the takeaway from this for people to understand is, number one, you guys didn't fall off the back of the turnip truck. It's not like you just bid this thing and like, oh, this will be great. Like, you understand the gravity of the situation. I think the second thing that people need to understand is you guys are really good at winning bids on things. And the reason why I bring that up is, A, you have experience running big events like the PGA, stuff like that, because that matters. And B, and you said it unprovoked, we're going to bid on this again. Because that matters too, right? Like if someone goes, we just wanted to do it once, it was on our bucket list, so we don't really care how it goes, we just wanted to pull it off, right? Like, I think that matters. I think that really matters. Like, I got to do the Oklahoma State tournament this weekend, and I did as much research as I could from finding out 10 days ahead of time I was going to do it. I want to be invited back, so I tried to put my best foot forward. If you don't care, that's going to show in your level of preparation, which is going to show in your level of execution. So
yeah, I'll tell you just a quick anecdote, and I won't make this long, but
no, go ahead.
This championship means a lot to a lot of people here. And this is, it's funny. I obviously I've been to all of our youth events here, except for this last week. And unfortunately I was in Chicago on business, but every youth event we've had here, every high school coach all over the state, every youth athlete, we've brought the trophy out and had the kids see it the last couple weeks and months, is that they keep saying, this is our championship. And so this means a lot to this state, more than I think a lot of people understand, is that, listen, Iowa can come at me all they want, but we're the wrestling capital of the United States. So plain and simple. And again, this isn't just the city of Tulsa's championships. This is the entire state of Oklahoma's national championships. And Listen, again, I can't say it enough. We've got very passionate people that know what they're doing on the wrestling side. Although we might not have all the answers from the sports commission side, we've got the right people that do, and we're working with those folks to, again, make one of the best championships ever.
Yeah, I think that's a good part of it too, right? Like you're a guy that I pick your brain about running events and things like that, because you do it on a different scale. And one of the benefits of having friends is literally asking them smart questions. Right? Like, look, I don't need to touch the stove. How do I do this without, burning my hand? I have two of my best friends live in Iowa, and I was sitting on the floor of the Iowa-Oklahoma State duel Sunday, and you sent me a picture. So I was about 4 feet away from Tyler Caldwell. So I all loved my people in Iowa too. And, probably the people in State College and a few other people would argue where the wrestling capital is, but certainly Oklahoma's on the short list, and there's no doubt about that. And you should believe that. If you don't believe that, no one else is going to believe that. That's how it should be. Like, I should believe we have the best podcast going. Otherwise, how would I ask anybody else to believe that, right? I mean, that's the way the world works. Yeah. So the one other thing that I think is I want to just point this out. If you've ever gone to junior duels, if you're a coach, Cox Convention Center is where FanFest is going to be, where the Oklahoma State University thing is going to be. It's actually where Border Brawl is going to be on Tuesday night. That's right. It's also, I know the NCAA is doing some other wrestling stuff there. So if you've ever wandered around Tulsa, which people do at junior duels a lot, because the event's not in Cox, or it's not in BOK, it's in Cox. And, people don't want to go to the same bar every night, and you can only go to the DoubleTree bar, so many days in a row. That's another thing. These hotel bars better be ready. There's going to be a lot of people coming back. But you can get every kind of food you want. A ton of breweries. There's sushi. There's really good barbecue. There's pretty much everything you can get. I think people need to do a little bit of homework, though, like map things out. Like one of the things I'm always amazed by is a session will be ending and 15 people text me like, where do you want to eat? I'm like, okay, I'm doing interviews. You guys figure it out. And I have a standing tea time at a couple of these places because it's in St. Louis, but otherwise, guys, you should not wait till the last minute. And I'm a very proactive person. You're a very proactive person. We're probably way more likely to get an ulcer than people that live the other way. But those non-ulcer people need to do a little bit of planning to make the experience as good as possible.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. And any homework you can do ahead of time would be fantastic. Again, you can visit our site, which again is at visittulsa.com. Or you can go to the NCAA site. We're going to be posting on there as well. If you go to, we're going to have maps. Again, we'll have wayfinders downtown as well. So they'll be pointing people in the right direction to go to restaurants from the hotels and whatnot. Again, we've really tried to think about those things. But again, as I mentioned in the beginning, if you come to Tulsa and don't have a good time, again, we really want you to do your research. And again, we'll provide as much information as we can as a host, because again, Tulsa is super walkable.
Right.
Sometimes these are in larger cities and the venue is pretty far away from the host hotel or whatnot. But again, it's pretty easy to get down to our different districts and walk around downtown. Again, I think on foot, you can get around everywhere in 15 minutes down here.
Right.
Which is like our furthest points out. And again, everything in between restaurants, bars. This last year we had more James Beard nominees than any other city per capita, including Las Vegas and New York. So again,
what was it? What was the name? What was the nominee thing? I'm sorry, James Beard.
James Beard nominees. So those are like the top echelon of chefs in the world. So
okay.
Our food scene here, our food scene's really, really good here.
So clearly that's a lane of ignorance for me. So thank you for educating me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So like a couple of years ago when the pandemic here, Hardell actually came in and stayed at my house and we went down to nationals together. And this is an example of me not being proactive. Like every year the nationals are in St. Louis, I get a room downtown because I run my event. I stay. Yeah. People want to have cocktails. I don't want to drink and drive. So I stay down there. And not a lot of that was going to happen. A sixth of the people were coming in. Hardell's staying at my house. We're going to go back. Yeah. And we get about 2 minutes from the exit, which is like 6 minutes basically from the venue. And he goes, hey, where are you going to park? And he just, you have that look like with the other person's like, I have no idea what a good answer. He goes, how do you live here this long? And then it turned out that the Nike guys had a parking pass with their hotel and they flew. So, it worked out. But I think a lot of proactivity or proactiveness, or whatever the right way to say it is, will save a lot of pain. I think that is the one problem for the NCAA's period, is when stuff rotates. It's difficult. Like when I coached in junior college, like one year I was out in Spokane, Washington. Like we didn't know we were going to work out. You don't know where you're going to get food. You don't know where the grocery store is. There's a lot of things that matter if you're trying to create the best environment for your student athletes. Now that I'm on this other side of it, it's for the fans, but it's whenever it's in the same place, I think there's a comfort level. I think let me ask you this, like the College World Series is in Omaha. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see the NCAA looking at doing something like that for wrestling, or do they enjoy moving it around too much?
I think they enjoy moving it around. I think, there's a lot to be said. I mean, listen, obviously I'm a little biased because Big 12 Wrestling Championships is with us, and we hope that they continue to be here in Tulsa.
Sure.
But, looking at a national championship, I think being able to take it places to allow the fans to experience different things, the student athletes to experience different things, I don't think it's a bad thing. And quite honestly, an event of this magnitude, I don't know if it could be in one location for year after year, just from a community lift side. And what I mean by that is, the impact that this event's going to have is going to be mega on our community, as it is with most communities. And so to do it year after year after year, Omaha, and I can speak to this because I know a little bit about that, that working is that, their new downtown, if you haven't been to Omaha, it's an amazing place. I always give them kudos. Most destinations are, but theirs particular, they rebuilt their downtown around TD Ameritrade Park, where the College World Series takes place.
That is correct. Yes.
To keep that event there. It used to be out by the zoo, by old Rosenblatt Stadium, and they still pay homage out there. But that downtown was specifically built around that new ballpark and that entertainment district, and it's incredible. And to be honest, why would you if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So in that case, I think there's it makes sense. Plus the centralization of that event and all the teams coming basically together in the middle of the country is it's a good location.
Yeah, I think we were there. I think it was, I can't remember, somewhere during the COVID stuff. There was a USA Wrestling event there. It was I think it was the under 20 World Team Trials and maybe under 17. There's 24 mats going, and we were staying there, and one of my good friends, who's my ticket guy, lives there, and he was, he took me by there and went with his son, and it was it's like when in Rome, try to educate yourself and not just live in these wrestling blinders worlds, and I'm a business guy, so I like. When somebody talks about the College World Series, I have at least partially educated opinion on it now. And you're right, it is built up. I think Omaha, I don't know the size comparison to Tulsa, but it's the same kind of thing. Sometimes when you're not in New York City, you appreciate it more, right? Like you said, when they held it in MSG, that's historic. That's awesome. No criticism. But it is just another thing coming to New York, right? The NCAAs are not going to be the biggest thing that comes there that year. You got the Knicks and everybody else and that kind of stuff. I think the other thing that will be interesting for folks like yourself will be if wrestling becomes a one-semester sport, because if it does and it becomes a second semester sport, well, actually both. Well, second semester, all NBA and all NHL arenas will pretty much be off limit. And people don't understand this because, in St. Louis, we have the Blues. But if you do it in the regular season, it's like with the Spurs. They always schedule around this rodeo once a year where they're on the road for 8 days. If you know the days, you can get – well, you laugh. But, that's a thing. If you follow the NBA at all, they talk about that trip, right?
Well, I only laugh because, again, to your point, yes, it makes it – we're very fortunate. A lot of times people don't understand. The general public doesn't understand. A lot of these arenas, when they have professional teams in them, or sporting teams, it's hard to bring in events like this because of the schedule. And again, a lot of these arenas and the deals they have with these professional teams is that they really have first right of, of refusal on the space. And so even on our end, we're lucky with the partners we do have with the Tulsa Oilers, which is a ECHL hockey team that they've been very gracious to work with us on their schedule and bringing in these events like, Big 12 and then obviously nationals this year. We're hosting hockey in between weeks, all week at the BOK Center. So again, putting down the ice, taking out the ice. If you have a basketball team, moving the floor, putting down mats. I mean, there's a lot of different moving parts that go into hosting these events. And again, I can't give enough kudos to our staff over at the BOK Center and ASM Tulsa because, I mean, just so fans know, we've got hockey that had taken place up until today. They're going to be removing the ice starting tomorrow so we can start setting up for Big 12. Right. As soon as Big 12 is done, they're putting the ice back in next week for hockey all week. And then by the end of the week, they're removing the ice again so that we can start setting up for NCAAs in the building. So again, it takes a lot of moving parts to make these things happen. But again, we're lucky that we have a lot of great partners here.
Yeah, so Tulsa would probably be on the good side of it if it became a one-semester sport because, no criticism, but it's a minor league team. It's not a major league team. And so, you probably a little more influence there. And then, like where St. Louis would be good and bad is like they'd be out on the Enterprise Center because of the Blues, but they'd be in because they actually have an empty football stadium. Literally we have an empty stadium ever since the Rams left. It's like, it's the worst somebody broke up with you reminder in the world, So, but it is interesting. Like, cities like Louisville get talked about for a one semester sport, but like all the cities that have like a Philadelphia could no longer do it. A Pittsburgh could no longer do it. A Cleveland could no longer do it. So those kind of areas, even Las Vegas couldn't do it because they got a hockey team now. So, I mean, it's interesting. And I'm a business guy. Like I really love wrestling, but I also love the business side of wrestling. And so it's great to work with guys like yourself that are really smart business guys that love wrestling too, because I think one of the things wrestling is missing is they need people to understand the green. A lot of people understand the X's and the O's, but if you don't understand the green, like people, the term grow the sport is happening, is thrown around. It's kind of like trust the process. Well, I mean, if you and me wrestle and you win, my process wasn't as good as your process, so sometimes those terms get abused, but I think it's great that you guys took this head on. I can't wait to see it. Barring a Hail Mary, I won't be there this weekend, but we'll definitely be there. I actually come in Monday because Border Brawl's Tuesday, and then we're doing a fantasy draft Wednesday. So shout out to the Cox Convention Center on Tuesday, and I think it's called the Goat Bar and Grill or the Goat Pub.
It is the Goat, Bar and Grill. They're located down the East Village. It's a great location. You're going to enjoy that.
Very cool place. They have 44-ounce Moscow mules if anybody's curious or knows anything about me. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll be doing stuff for USA Wrestling and be at the Wrestling and Business Network stuff and, a bunch of things in between. And I want to thank you personally because there were a couple teams that called me that needed help. And it's great that I was able to literally connect them to you. And one of the guys said you probably saved him 50 hours of work with like 3 phone calls. And you didn't have to do that. You don't make any money on that. I think that speaks a lot to your character. If anything, that cost you money because there's other stuff you're supposed to be doing. And you'll tell me, well, that's part of my job. Kind of, not really. It's a secondary part of your job. And I get that. So, on behalf of that guy and those programs, I think it's important people know, like, you're not just a 50,000 foot guy. You'll get down in the weeds. You'll call people. You'll do emails. And I think you lead from the front. And that's probably one of the biggest compliments I can give you. So I want to thank you publicly for that.
No, thank you, David. I appreciate that. And like you said, I mean, it's part of what I do, and I'm here to help. I want to make this a great experience for everybody, and so does everyone involved. I mean, again, I think the last thing I'll mention that I haven't yet is that we're building a legacy here in Tulsa that we hope the NCAA takes forward from here. But we're creating a care center to help our own home population during the championships. And this has been a labor of love on our end from tourism, but from our city as well, that we're creating a pop-up care location for our own homes during the week of championships, and then for future moving forward in our city. But we want other cities to see what we're doing with this program. We're partnering with United Way of Tulsa and our housing community to basically build a pop-up location to accommodate our own home during the championships. They'll be able to go to a location just off of our downtown, get a meal, get clothing, get medical. They'll be able to take showers, use restrooms, dental, doctors, the whole 9 yards. We want to make sure everyone's well fed during the championships as well. So we'll definitely be working again with all these different agencies to give back to our community, and really from a humanitarian standpoint. I think sometimes these large events come in the cities, and are a lot of the unhomed in these cities, they don't know these events are coming. All of a sudden there's a ton of people, they don't know what to do. And so we're really getting out ahead of that and providing a plan and providing meals and basic services for these folks that really deserve it and need it. And so we're really excited to be at the forefront from a community standpoint of doing this. And again, I can't thank our community partners enough. But again, we're really excited to really present this to the NCAA so they can continue to do this moving forward with other cities. So thank you.
I'll close with this. First of all, I think that's amazing. And hopefully every year somebody steals something from what somebody did the year before and make it better. I think that's maybe steal is the wrong word, learn, that kind of stuff. I will say this, and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible. I think it's awesome that you guys are going to be under the microscope, because when you're ready, like, let's go, let's bring it, and I know you and I probably talk at least once a month about whatever's going on in wrestling in Tulsa and how we can partner up on things. And so this was a fun podcast to do for me, because I'm like, you tell me when you can come on the air, you tell me when you can share some things. And, that's a great relationship to have, but you guys are going to shine. Like, I know it's, and people are going to go to Tulsa, whether they're going to go or not. But if it was terrible, I know my friends are going to kill me, but I know when they don't, they're like, all right, you and your guy were right. And so I think people just need to go in with an open mind. Okay. Like, if you think something is going to stink, you're going to find a way for it to stink. And this is a lot just to do with mentality of a given day, right? Like, if you think today is going to suck, it's going to be terrible. If you think I'm going to make today a great day, you're going to find a way to make it good. It's going to be great. There's always some pains. You can't just walk into a restaurant, get have a 5-star meal for $7 and with no wait. Like, I mean, there's normal things that go on, but I think you guys have done everything you can to sort of kill all the abnormal problems. And people, listen, if you're going, you might as well go with a good attitude anyway, right? Like, you're spending money on hotels, you spend money on tickets, you're spending money on restaurants. You're going to spend money on beverages. Just enjoy it, embrace it. And I will say this, like, Oklahoma is a very interesting state when it comes to wrestling. Like, the Perry, the history of that program down there, Tulsa, Stillwater, Gallagher-Iba Arena, Oklahoma City, where I was at last weekend for the OSSAA. Wrestling matters there. I mean, wrestling matters in Missouri, don't get me wrong. And Brian Smith is crushing it at Mizzou.
Yeah.
But, like, Oklahoma also has UCO and OCU, and, like, there's just a lot of history. Like, when I went to the state tournament this last weekend, it's like, there's some dudes that came through this tournament, So,
right. Well, one thing I actually failed to mention at the Fan Fest, we are working with our Wrestling Hall of Fame and Leroy Smith, and we are bringing a traveling exhibit of the Hall of Fame to the championships. It will be at the Cox Business Convention Center, so people will be able to check out the Hall of Fame. We're also going to be providing, and I know Leroy is working on a great plan to bring people over. We highly recommend, if you haven't been to the Wrestling Hall of Fame down here in Stillwater, it's a quick little ride. If you've got a car or folks, I don't want to overspeak, but I think there's going to be opportunities to take transportation out there. But again, awesome. If you've never been to the Wrestling Hall of Fame in Stillwater, highly recommend it. But again, we're going to try to bring it to the fans with a traveling exhibit, so it'll give people an opportunity to take that in as well.
Yeah, I got to partner with the Hall of Fame this year on the Hall of Fame duels, and I've known Leroy from a distance. He's friends with my parents.
Yeah.
My parents are both actually inducted in the Hall.
Yeah.
Worked with Ed Gallegos, Clay Hudson, Lindsey Hammer, Jack Carnifex. There's more folks over there, but those were, and Ethan Kyle was part of this weekly Zoom. And if you Zoom 25 times with people, you're at least kind of friends with them. And so those guys and Lindsey do a great job. And they were, again, no task too small. And I think that was another reason why that event was successful. The Hall of Fame, like, I'll sign off with the Hall of Fame and then with your thing.
Yeah.
We let each of the teams get their own private tour of the Hall of Fame. And I probably had 10 of the 16 coaches say to me, we thought the kids would just be bored. And the kids thought it was freaking awesome. And maybe besides wrestling, the best part of the weekend. So if you're close, I mean, Stillwater's not 10 minutes from Tulsa. It's a little ways, but if you can find time, it's worth it. Or if somehow it makes sense for you to go that way before you catch your flight on Sunday, something like that, it's worth it. I don't know the hours, so check with the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So listen, man, I'm blessed to call you a friend. I know you guys are going to kill it this weekend because I've seen that happen. If our good friend throws a Hail Mary and it gets caught, then I'll see you on Friday night. And if not, then I'll see you at the Border Brawl. And shout out, shameless plug for us. You're bringing the NCAA championship trophy to Border Brawl. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we'll have her there. So yeah, come by Border Brawl. We'll take a photo.
Yeah, so it's very cool.
But we'll also have it at again when you get to the arena, it'll be in the entryway, so you can stop and take photos with it there. But again, yeah, we're looking forward to it. So thank you, David. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So for Joel, I'm David. We'll speak to y'all next week. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.